everybody. I'm Kanisha from boldlivingtoday.com, and I'm also the co-founder of the Creative Educator Collective with Carrie Knutson, and I'm here for another Shift and Tell interview. So if you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to us, welcome. Today, my special guest is Sheryl Shields. She is a master life coach. We met through Martha Beck, which is so exciting. And Sheryl's also a public speaker, an author, an amazing, amazing person. And I'm so excited for her to share her Shift and Tell story with us today. So welcome, Sheryl.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Kanisha.
And where are you joining us from?
I'm in the suburbs of Chicago, the south suburbs. Flossmoor, Illinois.
Okay, so represent Illinois people, and also California. So, Sheryl, I am super fascinated with your story. We've had our own conversations when we've had our contact via social media when we've gone to some of the same conferences, and I'll never forget that last one, but that's a whole nother conversation, but good connection there. And I was really excited to talk with you today, just because you have had, from my lens, a super fascinating career within the world of education, and then you have this amazing book, which we'll hear more about. But I really want people to hear you talk about your journey through making your shift from what we think about as a traditional educator to this other career, and how you were able to navigate it. Okay?
All right, perfect. Well, I came to education a little backwards. I mean, all my degrees were in broadcasting and journalism. And then I got married and I had kids, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was doing some freelance writing for the Chicago Tribune at one point in time. And then my daughter went to kindergarten, and I mean, it was a neighborhood school right around the corner, no big deal, but there was this big child molestation case in the news. And I was like, I'm not sending my precious baby girl to this school and I don't know anyone. And I had a friend who was a teacher, and she laughed. She was like, you are so silly. I mean, that's rare. That never happens. It's people around all day. It's no way that could happen. I was like, but how do I make sure she's okay? And she was like, then go sub in the school. You get to learn the people. And I was like, oh, I have a college degree. I have a couple of them, sure. So I went and I started subbing, and I kind of liked it. And a friend of mine said, well, you'll be 40 subbing or you'll be 40 teaching. You know, because I was 36 at the time, and I was like, I'm too old to go back to school and start a new career. I'm not doing that. But of course I did. At 38, I started teaching, and I taught a variety of English classes, and it was just an amazing experience because I could use all my journalism background. I taught yearbook, and then my broadcasting background. I started a broadcasting program, and so it was just amazing being able to teach these people and learn these things from them and do all of these things. So that was awesome. And then, at some point in time, I got a little bit apathetic about the career. And then I was going through this horrible evaluation, and I thought, wait a minute, maybe I can retire. So I called the teacher retirement system, and they were like, no, you can't retire, but now, if you can retire anytime you want, but you won't get money until you're 65. And I'm like, I kind of need money to live on.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what about next year? And she said, well, no. I said, what about the year after that? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, done. So I put in my retirement letter. I signed up to go back to school to get a master's in organizational leadership and coaching, because even though I was a coach, I wanted to get a professional coaching certification. So I made a plan. I stuck to it. A couple of years later, I graduated, and then I graduated from grad school. And then a week later, I retired. So just the whole transition was pretty amazing.
I love it. Like, you were all about the shift. Like, you're the poster child of shifting. Like, I have my baby, she's going to kindergarten, that's a shift. Then this thing is going on at school, I need to be up there, that's a shift. Oh, I'm going to become a teacher too, another shift. Oh, you know what? I don't think this is for me anymore. Let me shift out of that and let me get this degree and shift there and shift. This is like exactly what I think our clients who are going to come to our, shift framework workshop need to hear. Like, you're never too old. We have tons of transferable skills as educators, and our time is always now. And I love, just like behind you, I can and I will. I'm constantly telling my clients this in my presentations. I'm constantly talking about this. And I feel like, unfortunately, there's this societal pressure to be on this stringent timeline of when these shifts, when these transitions have to occur. And you've totally just dismantled all of that. And I believe that that's the way of a bold thinker. And I feel like your message is what we really need to hear right now, because people are really trying to figure out how to live on their own terms, but still make a living. You know, we have to pay our bills. We have to take care of our families. We have to take care of ourselves. We need insurance. Okay. Those are amazing. So let me ask you this, because you've done a variety of things, and I didn't even really know about the journalism part. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So as an educator and a former journalist, I'll put that in there too. What would you consider your top 5 accomplishments so far?
Okay, that's a great question. And I really had to think about that one. So maybe, I mean, if you're looking at just career, is it just career, right?
We can open that up. You know what? We're talking about shifts and transitions. So let's keep that wide open. You know, you can say it in connection with your professional and personal life, if that works. I'm open to it.
Well, the number one shift is being able to parent kids at different stages in their lives. Because of course, when they're babies, they're one thing, toddlers, you know, then when they go to school, and then high school, well, you know, high school.
It's a lot.
And then when they go off to college, and then when they move out of the house, then maintaining connections and maintaining, you know, relationships, and then being relevant. And then that kind of shifts, that relationship kind of shifts. And yeah, you're always a parent, but you're more like a parent. And, you know, my daughter turned 31. And so I feel like we're peers, you know, we're the same age.
Yes.
You know, so that kind of shift. Then another thing is, I mean, it's been an interesting shift from teacher full-time to entrepreneur and professional life coach. And, you know, and sometimes when people ask me, what do you do? I forget, I'm like, I'm a teacher. Mm-hmm. Oh, but now I work with teachers who hate their jobs, or who want to transition from the classroom, but they don't know how. They can't just quit. Because for years I wanted to just quit, but it's like, I kind of have this thing called a mortgage, and these kids are in college, and I kind of have these things called bills, so I couldn't. So helping them to transition from one thing to the next is pretty cool. So, you know, so being able to do that. Another really big thing is writing my book. Mm-hmm. You know, it was a horrible time at work. They decided that the year before we were going to strike, and then at the last minute we voted not to strike. They gave us what we wanted, and then they thought they were taking advantage of. So they decided to shift some things at school. So they took 10% of the school teachers, which was 30 people, and they put them in different buildings. Now, these were people that had started coaching programs, who had done all these things, who were counselors, who were mentors, who were all these important things in their buildings, and they just moved them to another building. So one teacher ran out the building.
They weren't given a choice, they just moved them.
No, they said, we need you to be a leader at the new school.
Oh.
30 people going to be new leaders? And what is that saying to the people at the old school? They don't have any leaders. They all suck. We need you to go in and save them. I mean, it was insane. So one guy who had started the track program thought he was having a heart attack. He went out on a stretcher. Like I said, another teacher ran out of the building crying. A couple of teachers came to my room because they knew I was a life coach, and they knocked on the door, and I opened the door, and they're standing there crying, like, can you help me? I have to be moved. And I'm like, oh my God, hey, kids, give me a second. I need to talk. And
kids too? Oh my gosh.
Take some deep breaths. It's going to be okay. I mean, the place was just, everybody, it was like some kind of video game where you didn't know if you were going to die the next day. So if you were called to the principal's office, you knew that meant you were being moved. So teachers just weren't showing up at work. Wow. It was insane. And this was the end of the school year. So I started thinking, this can't be good from a mental health perspective. So I just started researching, what does stress do to your body? What are some of the symptoms of stress? And found out that it kills you. Mm-hmm. It can literally kill you. So I was like, teachers need to know. And then started researching the book about environmental issues like asbestos that's killing teachers all over the world, not just in America. And then all these things. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta write a book. I gotta write a book. So I started writing the book, and then I finished it a year before I retired. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna publish it and do all this stuff. And then my boyfriend, who's a doctor, said, let me read it. Let me just look at it before you turn it all in and get it printed and all that. And I said, okay. So he read the introduction. He was like, no, you got to change this. I was like, what? He said, you're naming real people. And do those people still work for the district? And I was like, yeah. okay, it's liability. As a doctor, I'm always thinking about liability. You have to think about liability. So I changed all that. And then
that was another shift.
That was another shift. Then I self-published the book, and then it came out, and then the next year, I retired. So it's just been amazing, just how all the things kind of lined up and kind of fell into place, and then, when I look back on my career, one of the biggest things I'm proud of is just being able to be a mentor to teachers and to students and a role model, because when I first started teaching in my district, I was the only Black teacher in the English department. And so, throughout the years, they hired more people. But when I retired, there's no Black teacher in the English department. Actually, there's no Black teacher in any of the core areas in our building. None.
I remember that, because remember, I worked in that district for 1 year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a little stark there.
Yes. And still, all these years later, 20 years later, it's still the same. So when I look back on my career, I'm really happy about those kinds of things and being able to do professional development programs that they said I couldn't do. So I had to change the name to make them seem teachery so that they weren't life coachy, but then of course they were life coachy. And then when I retired, people saying that saved my life. That changed the way I looked at kids. And it's like, oh, okay, all right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So basically, I hear that you saw this huge problem. I mean, moving teachers like that, we don't like to change so quickly as teachers. That was a huge problem, a huge stress inducer. Then your own struggle in those moments, or your own coming to the realization that, it's time for me to move on, to shift, to transition, and then being the resource, and then developing programs, and then being able to retire and now have this arsenal of tools right out the gate to do your what next. I mean, that's amazing, Sheryl. Like, people cannot be that prepared always. That's incredible.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to do, because I always wanted to see if this stuff would work. Like when I was writing a book, it took me 3 school years to write it, because I wanted to know, is it realistic for teachers not to take any work home and do it? Let me try that. And then I can say, oh, this is how I did it. So the sacrifice was I didn't get a chance to hang out and talk to some of my coworkers as much, but I wasn't lugging a bag full of essays home to grade, because I was a grading fiend during my professional periods and during my lunch periods. And, sometimes I'd come in a little early to get stuff done and maybe stay a little later, but not taking it home was huge.
So who supported you when you were doing all this transitioning, specifically around taking your time to write the book, dealing with things and shifts in your district, and then knowing, when I retire, I'm going to do XYZ? Like, who were your supporters in all of this? How did you get support?
Well, I had a few people at work that I told what I was doing, and I used, because they have really unique stories, and so I wanted to use their stories.
Yeah.
And so they said, okay, you have to change every detail except for the story. So if it was a woman, it was a man. If they lived in this suburb, they lived on the East Coast or the West Coast, that kind of thing. So that was really nice. And then a lot of people at work really did buy the book, were very supportive of the book, and told other people about the book. So that was great. Probably I'd say my boyfriend and my kids were huge supporters. My sisters, my family members were huge supporters. There were times when I couldn't do things with my kids that I normally would have done. I was like, I'm on a self-imposed deadline because I self-published. And I knew if I didn't have deadlines, I'd be writing until probably I was 99. So, they understood. And so they were accountability partners for me as well. So I gave them my deadlines, and they would say, okay, Mom, I think you have a chapter due next week. How are you doing with that? And I was like, oh shit, got a chapter due next week. Okay, I'm doing great. I'm doing okay with that. So that was really, really important to have people in my corner to support me, because without that, it's just me with a dream thinking that someday I'll write this book to help teachers. And of course, without accountability, that day would have never happened.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I feel like a lot of times we have these great ideas, we don't know what to do with them, and then we just put them in a journal, on a sticky note, or in our brain, or in our phone, and then they just live there and nothing happens. So that's really impressive that you really structured your life at that stage when you were already still doing other things. Like, it wasn't like you had full time to write and full time to focus on this other business or this other development. So, if you were talking to another educator, you know, whatever, maybe a classroom teacher or someone in the central office or a building administrator, you know, what like 2 or 3 inspirational tips or ideas would you give them to help them facilitate a shift or transition?
Well, the main thing is to think about, do you really love teaching, or do you really love being in the school system? And if you find out that it's something you're still really passionate about, then figure out what are some parts of that job that you hate the most. And for me, it was grading essays. And so I did some research to figure out what are some ways I can grade essays easier. And I realized I was doing all the heavy lifting. So I would read it. Of course, you mark everything. Then when we started doing things online, I would just highlight and circle and, you know, then write, oh, you need to look at this. You need to look at that. And then what I read was that you just highlight it and put a question mark. And then the onus of them figuring out what they did wrong is on them. It's not on me. So I went from taking maybe 10 minutes to grade an essay or 20 minutes to grade an essay, and I had 120 essays to grade, to maybe 2 or 3 minutes, because the onus was on them. So it's figuring out ways in which to restructure what it is that you do. And if you're an administrator, a lot of times they feel that they have to do every single thing, when of course you don't. You have a staff. Delegate. Do the things you love. The things you don't, delegate them to people who love doing it. Another thing is have some fun. Have a hobby. Do something fun when you're outside of work, because, you know, teaching is hard. I mean, it's mentally and physically hard. And at the end of the day, you go home, and then a lot of times people are still working. So your brain never gets a rest. That's what causes burnout. So if you can go home and have fun, don't take any work home. You know, do things with your family and friends. Do things you love. Do things by yourself. I mean, for me, there were some days when I would just walk around TJ Maxx for 2 hours.
And Home Goods.
And Home Goods. And just look at stuff. Every now and then I'd buy a journal, or I'd buy this or some little thing. So it wasn't really about the buying. It was just about the experience of looking at pretty stuff. You know, and sometimes I'd get on a train and go downtown and go to a museum all by myself, because I just wanted to just be in a different environment. And then the third thing is get some help. You know, a lot of times we think that we're not crazy, we're fine, we don't need any help, but you do. We all need help. And if you go to a coach, as you know, make sure it's a coach that has a coach.
Yeah.
So you know, if you're going to a therapist or a counselor, make sure they have a therapist or a counselor or somebody that they're working with, because we all have stuff and we all need to be clean. And if you're working with other people's stuff all day, like you do as a teacher, you know, you need to unload. You need to figure out some ways in which to deal with these things. So, you know, get some professional help. And nobody needs to know. It's just that you are in a much better place to do and be and have all that you want.
That's
and
amazing.
It's okay to dream. You know, if you think that you want to do something totally different and you're like, but that's kind of crazy. Like me with going back to school to be a teacher, you know, that's just a thought. So you can question that thought, you know, and go to Kanisha.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and breathe some life into it. It's okay. It's okay. Even if people around you don't get it all the time, right? Yeah. There's always that piece when people are like, you know, they're questioning your identity and what risk you're taking with the identity. That's a lot of things that educators struggle with when they're trying to move out of what they initially got into teaching to do.
Yeah, and the research that I've done, I found that teaching, everybody's looking for teachers. Yeah. I mean, you can go into any field for the most part and use your skills, because you're a trainer. You know how to teach people. And you do it a lot more effectively than a lot of these consultants that they're just bringing in. You know, somebody that might have been an expert in human relations, and so they're coming in doing this training. You can rock that a lot better than them, because you know how to lesson plan, you know how to do collaborative, you know, exercises, you know how to do all these things. And so to bring that to a corporate setting or to a private setting, that's awesome.
That is awesome. So Sheryl, tell us more about what you're doing. You know, what do you have going on? What events are you teaching at? Like, what's your magic that you're going on with your shift and your newer, not brand new, but your newer role now that you're retired?
Well, a couple of things. One thing is I put together this program called Moving from Loathing to Love. And it's a 6-week coaching program. And we'll do it on the phone. If you're local, we can do it in person, but it's 6 one-week sessions. And you can go to my website, SherylShields.com. and go under coaching, and it's right there. You can click on it and pay for that. And I'm also getting ready to ramp up my Happy Teachers Club, which I want to start in January. And basically what that is, it's a year-long program for people that want to transition from teaching to some other career, or they just want to fall in love with teaching again. And so during that year, each month we'll focus on different things. And then by the end of the year, you should be able to make your shift to either your new career, or maybe you're not quite ready and you want to stay and do some more work. That's absolutely fine. Because a lot of people aren't quick starts like me, meaning that I get an idea, I'm going to act on it right now. You know, some people, they want to do a lot of research. They want to ruminate. They want to, you know, talk to people. They want to research all the different avenues. And so if you're one of those, that's fine. This is the perfect place for you.
I love that. A nice soft place to land to kind of get it all figured out and massage.
Yeah.
And then tell us again the title of your book.
It's Teaching Can Kill You: How to Survive and Be Happy in the Classroom. There's kind of what it looks like right there to cover. You can buy it on Amazon, and you can get the ebook, or you can get, you know, the hardcover book.
And I'll have links to all Sheryl's information in the notes for the video, so you don't have to remember all of that. We'll have links to her website and where you can find her book, and also where you can find her coaching programs. Sheryl, thank you so much for your time today. I learned so much more about you that I didn't already know, which is so exciting. And it really gave me inspiration around, you know, as educators, our skills are so fully developed in dealing with all types of people, organizations, and really getting ourselves out there. And we have to understand that we can take that outside of a classroom, or outside of a building, or outside of a whole entire district, or whatever the case may be, or university setting as it was at one point. If you want to find out more about the Creative Educator Collective, which I hope you do, you can connect with us at creativeeducatorcollective.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Creative Educator Collective. You can find more information about me, Kanisha, at boldlivingtoday.com. Check out our website, learn more about our Shift and Tell interview series. We have a great YouTube channel with other educators talking about their shifts to inspire you, to help you connect with your story and what they're going through and how they navigated that. And also stay tuned for upcoming events through the Creative Educator Collective, because we have a lot of good things out there for the upcoming school year. Again, Sheryl, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Bye, everybody.